That was Elvis, born at 35. That was Elvis, the coolest cat alive from Don't
All right,
Be
everybody. So
Cruel.
let's go through some Child Bride here. I know that some of y'all have read this, some of you have not. Kind of look at the contents here. Author's note: childhood, a house of secrets. Then you got Anne's story, the secrets begin. Priscilla, little girl lost. 4 fantasies of Elvis. 5 stage mother. 6 secrets revealed. 7 sex pot. Then the second one, Priscilla meets Elvis, legend or lies. The myth unravels. The Faustian bargain. Imagine if the fantasy comes true. Priscilla in Wonderland. A question of virginity. Dark fairy tale. You got so yeah. So let's take a look at page 77. Right. We'll start there. All right. Priscilla Boyu was not the only girl Elvis Presley was dating that fall in Germany. Heli Primal, a 15-year-old German beauty nicknamed Legs, recalled evenings when she would leave Elvis's bedroom as Priscilla was arriving. Heli eventually complained, something Priscilla never did. Priscilla knew the rules, Curry explained. She didn't make a fuss about there being somebody else. Back then, she was just happy to see him. It wasn't only Priscilla coming to the house, confirmed Rex Mansfield, a member of Elvis's army entourage. It was lots of girls. Priscilla was a starry-eyed teenager in fantasy lust with a rock star. She dared not to say or do anything that might give him an excuse to stop seeing her. The stress and insecurity for a 9th grader in that position would have broken a girl who lacked Priscilla's iron will. Not only was Elvis romancing Heli in front of her, but he still enjoyed an occasional interlude with his young German secretary Elizabeth, who later married Rex. And he was known to have a stated girlfriend back in Memphis. The rivalry for Elvis Presley's affection was keen, and Priscilla had already demonstrated that she played to win. She and Curry developed a comfortable routine on the hour's drive back and forth. When Carol did not come along, Curry would question Priscilla for a few minutes about that night's bedroom activities with Elvis. And after a while, it would be boring, and then I'd let it drop, and we would talk about other things, or she'd take a little nap. She would tell me whenever I'd ask, oh, we did this, and we did that. He put his hand between my legs, he took my clothes off, and we just lay there, and his thing was sticking up like this. She would go into detail. I didn't realize it was it's funny, I've read this book before, but I didn't realize it was going there. Sorry, folks. I should have given you a little, perhaps a warning about that. She would go into detail on what would happen, because she was still unsure of herself up there, especially with Heli up there and that competition going on. During one of their early drives home, Curry found himself excited by Priscilla's description of her foreplay with Elvis and pulled the car off the autobahn for a quick tryst. She was very cold, as he described it. I was pushing her hair around just to kiss her on the mouth. She was kissing, but not very enthusiastically. I tried to put my hand on her, and she kind of wriggled out of the way and turned to the side a little bit, and I stopped. Curry immediately recognized the old syndrome, as he called it. Now she's been with Elvis. And why is it interesting to talk about? Because, Curry, it's his word against hers. Yes, there's some stress analyzer tests which were used by police departments back in the day that show that Curry was telling the truth and Priscilla was being deceptive the whole time. Which, they're still used today in some places. But anyhow, let's go back to this. So why would Curry bring up some of this stuff if it was going to get him in trouble? Because think about it. Priscilla's age, Curry's age. Curry admitted that he had intercourse with Priscilla. That's not something that was ever brought up with Elvis. So anyways, Priscilla's version of this encounter is that Curry pulled her onto a dirt road and tried to rape her. And I was terrified. I did everything in my power to keep him off me. He gave up because I made such a fuss. There was a house there, so if I had to crawl there, I could get there. There were lights there. I was going for that. I kicked the doors open and blew horns. When the horn was going off, the lights came on the house, and it scared him. Priscilla told no one, she says now, because I thought I wouldn't see Elvis anymore. I thought Curry would never do it again. Something had occurred prior to this evening that not only suggested a motive for Priscilla to allege that Curry tried to, but that could also explain why they offered different versions of their entire relationship. During one of the private talks in his bedroom, Elvis had recently revealed to Priscilla that he considered virginity sacred, and that he would never date seriously or consider marrying a girl who had been with another man. That was early on, she confirmed. It was important to him that he was the first. Very important to him. That conversation, by Priscilla's own account, was portentous. In reality, it must have been harrowing. Elvis naturally assumed, since she was barely 14, that Priscilla was a virgin, and she affirmed this while they were talking and making out in his bedroom. According to Curry, however, Priscilla had intercourse with him a few weeks earlier in the hills above Wiesbaden. Elvis's old-fashioned Southern insistence on a virgin bride was the quintessential catch-22 for Priscilla. She had made the ultimate sacrifice, her virginity, in order to actualize her dream of meeting Elvis, only to discover that in doing so, she had effectively disqualified herself from ever becoming his wife. If Elvis ever found out. It was at this moment that Curry Grant began to pose a threat to Priscilla, for he knew that she was not a virgin. If he revealed their liaison, it would jeopardize her growing romance with Elvis. Thus was born another secret in Priscilla's adolescent life. To ensure her chance for a lasting relationship with Elvis Presley, she would have to conceal the fact that she and Curry Grant had intercourse before he took her to meet her idol. This is a secret Priscilla Presley guards to this day, for the key element in the Elvis and Priscilla mystique myth, the single powerful image, which is most closely associated, was that she was a virgin bride on her wedding night with Elvis, 7 years after they met. Mike Edwards, in whom she confided that she and Curry had a sexual altercation in the hills before he took her to meet Elvis, suspected Priscilla was denying she and Curry were intimate for the same reason, to preserve her image as a virgin. You know how when you talk to someone, you hear stories, you kind of listen? I thought they did have intercourse, but I never pushed it. And I thought other things that we talked about, I always thought that they did. And I felt that she did not want that because she wanted to be a virgin for Elvis, and I always sensed that. This would explain why Priscilla was so desperate, years later, to conceal the otherwise harmless fact that she had been a huge Elvis Presley fan, and that it was her fantasy to meet him. In admitting that, she would have felt exposed to speculation about how she made her dream come true. People might believe she was willing to do almost anything to make that fantasy happen. If, however, she denied that she was an Elvis fan, as she had done, who would believe Curry's account that she asked him to introduce her to Elvis and then slept with him to gain access? I think she's saying that maybe because she wants to appear like a different young lady, Karen Grant reasoned. As far as I remember, and I'm going to go back many, many years, I was told many times over and over again that she walked up to my dad and said, "I hear you know Elvis." I don't see any other reason why there would be a dispute or any other story of how it happened. It's kind of sad that she would be this way. She got lucky, declared Vera von Kronthal, who recalled Priscilla asking around the Eagle Club that summer about meeting Elvis. She probably would never have met Elvis if Curry hadn't taken a real liking to her. Priscilla began writing to friends back in Austin that November that she had met Elvis Presley at a private party in Wiesbaden after he entertained at the Officers Club. By Thanksgiving, she had revealed that they were dating, with a fanciful explanation that Elvis had noticed her at a party and approached her. It was so unreal to us, recalled Christine Laws, who had graduated from junior high with Priscilla only 5 months earlier. Priscilla told a teacher, Gunan von Heister, that Elvis was a distant relative. Anything, apparently, to create a smokescreen to divert attention away from Curry and the truth. Curry was unaware of Priscilla's deception and her motivation for it. After the incident along the side of the autobahn, he continued to drive her back and forth to Bad Nauheim for nearly a month, and by his account, persisted in coaxing sexual information from her on those nights that Carol stayed home. Priscilla was trapped. Curry was still her entree to Elvis. According to Curry, Priscilla's legendary tale of Elvis withholding penetration until their honeymoon was another falsehood. It's controversial. You know, I've got to say that. It's very controversial. He didn't have intercourse with her the first night or two, Curry said. He didn't get into the deeper stuff until the third or fourth time. Eventually, he had intercourse with her not only once, she told me that. It was either the third or fourth time. I don't know which one. So that's interesting. That also, let's take a second here, because different time back then, there were still some issues with the age thing, even back in the 50s and 60s, although plenty of people got married. It was just a matter of not doing things without being married. That was the biggest issue at that time. Nowadays, they call people, titles for that, even though it's not scientifically true. I mean, you've got to be 10, 11, 12 for people to have a condition, I guess. But anyways, let's go back to this. Mike Stone. Well, actually, the point I was trying to make. If that did happen, Priscilla talked about how she would beg and beg and beg for him to do it. Well, if it did happen, if he gave in, physical part of it, and it did happen, well, guess what? There is the reason right there to marry her. Or it gets out, and maybe he goes to jail. Maybe he loses a huge percentage of his fans. She would talk about it. The parents would talk about it. They would write a book about it. Promise you that would have happened. It would have happened. If this did indeed happen, according to Curry Grant. Mike Stone, the karate champion with whom Priscilla had an affair at the end of her marriage to Elvis, always questioned whether she and Elvis had delayed intercourse into their honeymoon, and occasionally asked her about it. She kept a secret even from her lover. Would you tell, he asked. I think a lot of things that are left best unsaid are best left unsaid, especially if you're involved with somebody like we were at the time. There's some things you just don't want to bring up. Apparently, Elvis told Joe Esposito he was doing everything else but intercourse with Priscilla in Germany. Priscilla did not express a concern about becoming pregnant, at least during her conversations with Curry, nor was Elvis bothered. EP was like me, Curry noted. He pulled out before anything because he and I talked about it. The withdrawal method of birth control may have been Elvis's interpretation of stopping short of penetration with Priscilla, for he told Joe that fall what he and Priscilla were doing was okay, as long as you didn't finish the sex act. That was his thinking. In other words, I'm not doing anything wrong. That's another interesting thing. The thing is, there's degrees of truth and there's degrees of lies. There always, there's almost never truly a black and white anything. There's gray, there's room for interpretation. In the Christian world and spirituality and biblical stuff, there's a lot of interpretation. Was that meant, literally, or was it meant, in another way that's more of a story to get a point across. Well, we are going to continue this a little bit further down the road, maybe some more tomorrow. It's always best to see it from this. I mean, I know in some of my earlier videos I screenshotted some of the digital part of the book, but good place to discuss it. So that's a good stopping point right now, and I'll probably continue from that, and maybe I'll read that full chapter, and then we'll go back and we'll revisit some of the other Priscilla and Curry meeting, and the lie detector test, and the girls in junior high school talking about her disappearing with boys in cars and all that other stuff. Anyhow, this is Rare Elvis Photos. Hope you have a good day, and hope you enjoyed this video. Please like it. Please share it around. I do see you guys sharing it around on these Elvis pages and stuff on Facebook, so I appreciate it. I try to like it and comment when I can and I see it. And if you can become a member, once again, I do agree. I can't talk, can I? I greatly appreciate the members I do have. But if you can become a member, please check the links in the description, as well as if you're on the computer, you can see that join button. But if not, you got to go to the description and click on that to become a member. All right, TCB TLC. This is Rare Elvis Photos.